NFC East. Happy Tuesday, Eagles fans. You feel the hangover yet? Tone the Shields, are you feeling the hangover from going to the Super Bowl? All that adrenaline still pumping on Monday. Well, it's Tuesday now, and we don't have football this. Well, I guess we do. We have the Pro Bowl games, but let's be honest. We don't care about that. You know, when the Eagles get selected to the Pro Bowl and they're good, you're always like, okay, that's nice. I'm glad they got picked, but I hope they don't play in it this year. The Eagles were playing in the big game. When the Pro Bowl games are going on, the Eagles will be touching down in Glendale.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I had a hangover per se, but it's one of those things where you have so much excitement, you have so much energy, pent up because of that one game, the NFC Championship, and then when you're finally able to release it all, it's like this big relief, this big sigh of relief. And now the Philadelphia Eagles are going to the Super Bowl, their second Super Bowl appearance in 5 years. They have an opportunity to win their second Super Bowl in 5 years, and that's just amazing when you think about how the Philadelphia Eagles have been in years past in terms of the 90s, the 80s. They've had moments, but now we're starting to see a constant trend of winning.
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot of number one seeds, a lot of better chances to go to the Super Bowl. Remember, I don't think people realize this, but the Eagles were not the number one seed in 1980. They weren't. They ended up getting home field for the championship game because things worked out in their favor. I guess we could say it was an easy road, right, Tone?
Yeah, people on their easy roads, man.
Yeah, easy road. You know what? Let's go into that for a second. Because it is Tuesday and we're still kind of recapping the title game. Do you care if the Eagles had an easy road to the Super Bowl because they faced the red-hot Daniel Jones and the excellent Brock Purdy and the excellent Josh Johnson?
I spoke about this before the playoffs started. I said, look, I don't care who we play. It makes zero difference to me because when it's all said and done, people are going to remember who has the Lombardi trophy, not who you played to get there. It means absolutely nothing to me. I actually used to say it to you all the time. My ego isn't that big. My pride isn't that strong to the point where I feel like I need to beat the Cowboys in the playoffs. I need to beat certain teams in the playoffs. I need to crush the Vikings to remind them who they are. I didn't need to do none of that. I didn't need that. The Eagles knocked out the number 6 seed and they knocked out the number 2 seed. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. People want to put an asterisk next to the NFC Championship because Brock Purdy got hurt and so on and so forth, and Josh Johnson couldn't finish the game, and all this other jargon that they want us to care about. We're not going to care about it because Philadelphia sports is winning right now, and they have an opportunity to win big. And how we got there means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. So when people make those points, it's lazy. They're bored. Or they're just bitter.
It may be because, again, everybody knows I'm a huge Phillies fan. Absolutely huge. So I savored every single moment of that World Series run. I got so fired up when people were calling the Major League Baseball playoffs a Mickey Mouse tournament because the Mets couldn't get the job done and, this team couldn't get the job done. And I'm just saying, the Cardinals, and I'm like, well, hold on a second. You couldn't beat the team that you were supposedly better than. Well, it's hard 62 game. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. You had Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. You couldn't beat the Padres? You couldn't beat them at home? Remember, they didn't get a home game. Just like the Phillies, they had to go on the road. So why do people need to diminish teams for what they accomplished? Are we?
Right.
You only hear Bengals fans saying, "Well, we were down 3 offensive linemen to the Chiefs." Yeah, they took it on the chin.
You know what's so funny about that? It's funny, especially for the 49ers, because I've been dealing with 49ers fans for the past 24 to 48 hours because they're bitter and they're upset and they're making up all these excuses why the Philadelphia Eagles won the game. Right? Brock Purdy got hurt. Josh Johnson, we didn't have a quarterback. Devontae Smith didn't catch the ball. Well, guess what?
He ain't catch the ball, but
did the refs say anything? Did Kyle Shanahan throw the flag? Did the people up top? All these cameras. No one saw him. No one saw him not catch the ball. And then the following play went on after that. Okay, it's a catch. The box score says it was a catch. So therefore, live with it, die with it, do what you want to do with whatever you want to do with it. I don't care. The bottom line is the Philadelphia Eagles survived. And they beat the number 1 defense. Was it a pretty game? No. the Eagles had a pretty dominant rush attack, even though they only averaged about 3.5 yards on the ground. But they still were physical. They still stuck to it. They were patient. But all this trying to pour the carpet from under the team because they beat your team, it's saddening. It's disheartening. You have to try a little harder than this, because why should we give any kind of consolation prize, especially to the 49ers, a team who supposedly, and this goes back to your point, right, about people complaining about what they have and what they don't have. The 49ers are supposed to be this quarterback-proof juggernaut. That's been the theme all year. They're quarterback-proof. You can plug anybody and their mama back there, and they can get it done. And then when it came down to the biggest moments of moments, I guess there's no system, there's no team that's quarterback-proof.
Well, that's been their issue, right? So everybody likes to complain about Jimmy Garoppolo, and I've given Jimmy Garoppolo a lot of credit because he's been good for them. I don't know if he's a good quarterback overall, and they said, we'll put him on our team. Like, no, I don't have to do that because he's not on our team. He's on their team, and he plays well for their team. As a matter of fact, if Jimmy Garoppolo was a quarterback in that game, I would have respected them a lot more because I know what he's done. Is he good in the playoffs? No, he's not, but he still can make those throws. I wasn't sure Brock Purdy could do that because I didn't see enough, and when the defense actually got pressure in his face, he wasn't that good. And we really didn't get to see it on Sunday because Hassan Reddick hurt his elbow because they decided to put a backup tight end on Hassan Reddick. And I get what the play design is. You're trying to hit Brandon Ayuk, who was he open or not? I don't know. I haven't really watched the play. When I was watching that play, I was watching Eagles D-line, so I really wasn't paying attention to who was open or not. So I'll take Kyle Shanahan's word for it. But I think George Kittle handled it the best. Sucks. Shitty. That's what he called it. I think he handled it best. Like, what are you supposed to do? Cry, complain about it? No, it's an unfortunate situation for him. And look, I think he'll be back next year. I think they're a really good football team. But again, you could tell they benefited from the NFC West being down this year. They benefited from the Cardinals stinking, the Rams stinking. The Seahawks, again, they were one of the surprises of the league. They weren't supposed to be good. They were supposed to be terrible this year. And they didn't really play. The Eagles played in the best division in football. People seem to forget that. The NFC East historically was one of the best divisions of all time. They had 3 teams go to the final 8 of the playoffs, 3 teams in the divisional round. That hasn't happened in...
All 4 teams have Super Bowls.
Yeah, exactly. All 4 teams have Super Bowls. But even talking about this year, that hasn't happened since 97. The Giants won, if you count the playoffs, they won 10 games. The Cowboys, if you count the playoffs, won 13 games. And the Eagles now have 16 wins. This is a damn good division, Tone to Shields. I don't think people realize that. Like, we do because we do this show. The fans do on here. I believe Cowboys fans understand. I believe Giants fans. I believe Commanders fans. Look, the Commanders are 8-1 and missed the playoffs. They were pretty good this year despite all their problems. The Eagles are battle-tested all year. Whether people want to admit it or not, everybody likes to go to the schedule. I'm like, hold on a second. Giants made the divisional round. Cowboys made the divisional round. Eagles beat the Cowboys. They beat the Giants 3 times. They beat the Commanders once. It was a bloodbath this year, and they were well-tested for this game.
Yeah, it's so funny. I got into a little debate with a peon on YouTube, in the YouTube comment section.
Peon.
I don't know why. I don't know how I got caught up in it, but I did. And this person is obviously a 49ers fan. And they tried to say, yeah, the Eagles had a cakewalk. They ran through a crappy division. And when he said that, I'm like, wow, I can just tell you do not watch football. You do not watch football. So I had to dunk on him, Jeff. You know what I mean? I had to let him know that his division sucked this year. I had to let him know that his division had a 7th seed that barely got in, that was waiting for another team to lose just so they can get in. I had to remind him that the Cardinals and the Rams were cataclysmic. They could do nothing. They fell off a cliff. I had to let him know that his team had the real cakewalk. You know what I mean? So it's just, the NFC East, like you said, they've been the most dominant division in the NFL. They've won the most games. They've been the most consistent. They've been one of the harder divisions to beat. Think about earlier in the season with the Giants, right? The Giants were knocking off teams that we didn't think that they could do. They knocked off the Packers in London. They knocked off the Ravens. No one saw that coming. You know what I mean? That's when they had Lamar Jackson. So the Giants have some signature wins throughout the season, no matter how you may feel about them. The Washington Commanders, they have some signature wins. Did the Washington Commanders beat the Packers as well, if I'm not mistaken?
Did they? I'm trying to remember. Honestly, it's been so long now. Hey, you know what? This is the most we've talked about the Commanders since the season ended.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I have. Yep, they beat them 23-21.
I was gonna say I thought they did, but yeah, double check that for us. But
yeah,
you're right.
23-21. They beat Jacksonville. They have a couple signature wins on their schedule. They beat Dallas in week 18. That's
week 18.
That's a big win because Dallas played everybody, and the Commanders played a rookie quarterback in Sam Howell. So this division has been competitive all year. This division has given people problems all year, and I think some people are just so used to the fact that this division has been bad over the past handful of years, they forgot that this division was one of the creams of the crop. One of the top divisions in the NFL in the grand scheme of things. Like I said, this is the only division in the NFL where every team has a Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. I think that still holds true.
No, it is. So this is the other argument that it's almost like 49ers fans were like, man, the Eagles got the 1 seed. Well, if the Vikings would have done their job, the Eagles would have played the tougher team in the divisional round. I'm like, yeah, but that's not how it works. See, because the Eagles had a better record than you during the regular season, so they got to play the lowest remaining seed. Oh, and by the way, after the Cowboys, the NFC field was not very good. And that's not a knock on the Giants. That is not a knock on the Giants at all. There were 3 Super Bowl teams, Super Bowl caliber teams, in my opinion, that in this conference. It was the Eagles, it was the Cowboys, and it was the 49ers. And the Cowboys and 49ers had their bloodbath the week before, and the Giants did the Eagles a huge favor by beating the Vikings. So the Eagles did not have to see Dallas in the divisional round, because I don't know how that would have went. I mean,
what did I tell you? I told you they're going to cannibalize each other. Yeah, the 49ers and the Cowboys, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, Cowboys have really good defense. And by the way, we got to get into this. I know this kind of got swept under the rug with the whole Eagles win the NFC Championship thing. Kellen Moore is not the offensive coordinator of the Cowboys anymore.
Yeah, no, he went to the Chargers. They haven't really disclosed his role yet, have they?
Yeah, he's going to be offensive coordinator. I guess it's still a report. It hasn't been finalized yet. But I'm curious to see what Dallas does now. Because Dallas they averaged the most points per game over the last 2 years. I think Kellen Moore wanted an elevated role, and I think the Cowboys just kind of let him walk. It definitely wasn't a firing per se.
Yeah, I actually listen to Cowboys fans when they talk, when they discuss Kellen Moore, and I've spoken to a lot of well-versed Cowboys fans that watch the film, that are locked in. Some Cowboys fans who are also reporters, for the organization, right? They cover the team as well, in various channels, so on and so forth, and they're not as high on Kellen Moore as everyone else is. And I'm curious to know what's your evaluation of Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator. Out of all the Cowboys games you've seen, what's been your thoughts on how he's called games situationally? Maybe the type of routes he's had people run. Because something that stands out the most, Cowboys fans hate this. He always runs this one play where he has every wide receiver running a curl route, a comeback route.
Yes.
And it's something that gets them in trouble often.
He runs it.
I'm curious to know what you think about Kellen Moore.
Yeah, he runs his team a lot like how when he was quarterback at Boise State, like how Chris Pearson ran that offense. It's very college-oriented, very spread out. What scares me about Kellen Moore is I don't think Dak Prescott got any better under him. The stats look better, but I don't think Dak looked better.
That's a really good point. I don't think Dak developed under Kellen Moore. Like you said, the numbers, right? The offense was a well-oiled machine to a degree, but I don't think Dak has gotten better at the position. And I think that's the difference between the Cowboys offensive staff and the Eagles offensive staff. You've seen Jalen Hurts get better at the position, right? Even when we had Carson Wentz, right? from his rookie year to his second year. Shout out to Coach John DeFilippo. They made that young man work on his mechanics. He got better from year 1 to year 2. It was a drastic jump.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, Brian Daboll, like he got better, right? And then when he left, you saw the regression. I'm not sure where I've seen Kellen Moore take Dak Prescott's game to another level, because Kellen Moore's only been the OC for what, 3 years? 4 years?
I believe this is his. Well, he was a holdover. Remember, Mike McCarthy didn't hire him, so he was there with Jason Garrett. I want to say 19 was his first year as the offensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, and I think at that time Dak was already who he was.
Yeah, Dak was, again, going into 2019, Dak was always that guy, like, I liked him. I'm like, okay, he's a pretty good quarterback, but Ezekiel Elliott's carrying him. Well, he's been carrying Ezekiel Elliott the last couple years. So, in my opinion, Dak can carry a football team, but he just turns the football over way too much now. Remember, he never used to turn the football over. He was like Jalen Hurts in a sense. But now, he has the defense. The offensive line's stable, but I don't get why they fired Joe Valero. Not Joe Valero. Sorry, we're having Joe Valero on tomorrow. Joe Philbin, their offensive line coach. I don't know why they fired him, because their offensive line, in my opinion,
wasn't the issue.
No, it wasn't. Like, everybody was kind of the scapegoat, but Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn. And Dan Quinn's probably going to be the next head coach there anyway. Like, I don't know.
I think that's why Dan Quinn didn't take another job. Because I think
it is
blood.
too.
He smells blood in the water.
Yeah. By the way, with Dan Quinn, what is the attraction with him? He wasn't that great of a head coach the first time. Excellent defensive coach.
Yeah. I couldn't even tell you, man. I don't really get too deep into the intricacies of what makes a coach that special. I kind of focus on the result. And last time he was a head coach, the Falcons choked away a Super Bowl that they had on their lap. So it's kind of hard for me to really look at him as anything beyond that. You know what I mean? That's a pretty heavy blemish on your resume, if you ask me.
Yeah,
and then he's just historically known as someone who can't get it done. Same thing with Kyle Shanahan, right? Kyle Shanahan, I don't care how smart he is. He's someone who's historically known for not getting it done.
You know what's upsetting about that Super Bowl that the Falcons blew? Everybody blames Quinn for it, but who was the offensive play caller in that game?
Kyle Shanahan.
Yep, thank you. And,
married to the hip.
Kyle Shanahan is not good in big game situations. He needs to improve in that. And look,
he's bogged down, like my man John McMullen always says. He's bogged down. He's doing too much. He's trying to call plays. He's trying to be a motivator. He's trying to argue with the refs. He's taking on too much responsibility, and it actually affects how the games are played out. There's nothing wrong with having a CEO coach. As a matter of fact, one of the best CEO coaches that we have working with JAKIB Sports is Mark Farzetta. He's a guy that knows how to pivot. He knows how to point guard the situation. He knows how to pass the ball. He knows how to delegate. And I'm really excited to have him on, man. He always brings the energy, always brings the fire, Jeff. So we're going to take our first break. You guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East with Jeff Kerr. I'm your guy, Tone. This is the second, pushing all the buttons. Keep it locked, you guys. You don't want to miss this.